apart from the city that I'm in right now, there's only one other place in Europe that has an international airport named after a footballer. Welcome to Belfast. So this is where George Best first kicked to football, we think.
Yeah, so there's an early photo of George Best. I think he's like 14 months old. His grandparents are from round here, so there's this famous photo of him dribbling and kicking a football, and you can sort of already see his posture. And
I'll show it on screen. Just the way he looks like he's shimmying looks professional already.
There's loads of famous photos of him over the years in that stance and in that pose. So to see him as a child doing that at his grandparents' house is a bit crazy. And there's another interesting story that in this area, his grandparents lived around here, and Nettlefield Primary School, which is just over those houses behind you, was where he went to primary school. And there's stories of actually George Best every day dribbling a tennis ball to school and back. And you think,
the technique,
like, if I was dribbling a football, or you probably the same over this bumpy footpath, it'd be hard. But to dribble a tennis ball, it's just crazy.
It's mad. And what do you think life was like for him and his grandparents in, when would that have been, the 40s?
Yeah, I assume it'd probably been tough, because George Best born in 1946, so that's just after the war. And in and around this area in East Belfast, as you can see, the houses are all so close together, and Belfast was badly affected by the Blitz. And I'm sure in the 40s times were tough. Belfast was still an up and coming place, the shipyard, most men would have worked there, and but I'm sure it was a tough place to live.
Rationing still went on for like a decade or so, I'm sure.
So, and like all these houses would have had luxuries like an outside toilet and stuff for people to enjoy that we don't have now. So,
but do you think that sort of upbringing probably helped him become the footballer he was?
He's steeped in a working class background and a working class area, and you know, that hard work and effort, I'm sure, stood by him the rest of his career. And people talk about his skill and his goals and everything he achieved, but there's loads of other stories that I've heard about his tough tackling and big tackles and getting stuck in.
I suppose you had to be hard to play football,
which I'm sure
in
he would
days.
have. And as you think as well, that the pitches that George would have been playing on over in England compared to what they are now, would have been some difference. So
it's a different world.
I'm sure it stuck by him. And
so what are these gates for then?
It's just between the houses. There's different alleyways, and people just, their bins are collected here, so that they close the gates before the bins.
So who closes they close the gates at night?
Yeah, no.
Who closes them?
It's just the residents.
Yeah, the irony of the no ball game sign.
And you've got one of the best footballers probably to ever live was playing football just around the corner.
Yeah, they could be denying the next George Best, couldn't they? With that.
Crazy.
So that's Alex Higgins there.
Yeah.
World
snooker champion.
Yeah.
Twice.
Wow, and he's from Sandy Rose.
So he's from down this neck of the woods, yeah. He was highly intelligent, and over here in Northern Ireland at that point when he was in school, we had a thing called the 11 plus. So
I took the 11 plus. Yeah.
So you got to your final year in primary school, and you basically would have sat this exam to see what school you were going to end up in, whether it was a grammar school or a secondary school. And George Best passed as 11 plus.
I failed my 11 plus.
So did I.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing about this, which the story takes another twist, is George Best went to a grammar school originally called Grosvenor Grammar School.
Right.
And in Northern Ireland, our grammar schools are very focused on rugby and hockey. Now, George Best being infatuated with football, he was intelligent, he was at a grammar school, but I don't think he lasted too long, because he ended up transferring to a secondary school to go and play football. So he gave up going to a grammar school and he moved to a secondary school, Lisnashara High School, which is near where his mum and dad's home is, and they played football. So there's old photos of him in the school football team, which look quite cool. But yeah, that's George's story. It takes another twist, but all focused around football and his endeavours in that way.
Another no ball game sign up there as well. So from kicking a ball, the tennis ball on the roads, to an actual football pitch, this is where he would have played his early stuff?
This could have been where George Best played his earliest football. We're right in the middle of the Craigie estate now, where George Best is from. His family was from, and I think his father actually lived here right until his death. So this is George Best heartland right now, and this is the centre of where his football experience would have started. So this pitch, it's been here for many a year, and they're still playing at football now, and youth football on a Saturday. And
good stuff.
George Best was spotted as a youth footballer by Bob Bishop, who was a Man United scout. And there's a famous story of Bob Bishop contacting Matt Busby directly and basically sending him a telegram saying, "I found you a genius." And that's always been really famous here in Northern Ireland, and also famous for Manchester United fans.
And what was the boys' club that he played for called here?
I think he played for Craigie Boys Club.
Craigie Boys Club, yeah.
I was trying to look back at the history and see other teams that he played for, but that was the only point that I could find reference to, and he went over to Manchester United very, very early on. He could have been 16, 17, got homesick, obviously loved the Craigie so much and loved Belfast so much, but then went back over, and what a career he made of it. Like, even for me, like, you live in Belfast and everybody works incredibly hard and tries to achieve the best that they can in their careers and their lives, but you're literally, if you're from East Belfast, you're living 5 minutes away from one of the best people in their profession probably to ever live, in terms of George Best and what he achieved in football. So
is that quite motivational for people?
Yeah, I suppose it would be, and it's really nice for people to, like, George Best and his success. People laud him from Manchester United perspective for being their great player and what he achieved, but for Northern Ireland and Belfast to have somebody from our wee country, as we call it, to achieve on the global scale is phenomenal. It's really nice to have that. Just as we're putting it in here, this is the street that George Best is from, Burnway. So,
and this old house is an Airbnb?
It is an Airbnb, and it's like a visitor attraction, so you'll just see the blue door is George Best's family home.
So that little sign says?
So it says, family home of soccer legend George Best, awarded freedom of the borough of Castlereagh, which was the old council around here. So they have the original front door on there, I imagine. That's definitely not double glazed, so
no,
that's quite cool to see. And like the funeral route, like,
it would have started here.
It would have started here, and the streets were lined like 3 and 4 people deep the whole way to Stormont, Parliament Buildings, where his funeral was, and then up the Roselawn Cemetery where he was finally buried. So I remember I went to it as like a 10-year-old at the time. My dad took me, and like everybody was just standing applauding as the hearse went past, which was
mad,
like, it was sort of stuff the hair standing up on the back of your neck. And like, the funeral was televised, and you'll know, and other people watching this will maybe know, the hill up to Stormont is at an incline like this, and there was thousands of people everywhere from all over the world who'd travelled, people from Northern Ireland who'd come out, football fans, and they were actually throwing scarves, flowers onto the front of the hearse.
It's like something you'd see in the royal funerals. And
at points the hearse actually had to stop because there was so much stuff on the windscreen and there was so much stuff on the bonnet.
Yeah, they had to move out of the way.
Football scarves from loads of different teams and clubs all over the world. So it's something that even as a 10-year-old, if you're from here and you're a football fan, it was almost like, where were you moments
on that day.
And he was eulogised after that. The Belfast City Airport was named after him, and for a while the bank printed a George Best £5 note.
Wow, okay.
So there was a George Best £5 note in circulation. I'm sure a lot of people have in their drawers somewhere. So that was a nice,
even though it's like technically worth a £5, I bet those things are worth a lot more than £5.
They're probably on eBay for travel app
exactly
now,
so
that was a nice wee thing to have as well. So it just showed in that day what the people from Northern Ireland thought of him, and the people of world football thought of him, to actually come out and celebrate George's life and pay tribute to him on that day.
So you can see all of Belfast.
Yeah, so you can see all of Belfast.
Such a unique place, like we were saying off camera, like you drive for 5-10 minutes and you're in farmland, but
yeah,
there's a big major city right there.
Yeah, it's really cool, I guess, because in Belfast and Northern Ireland, sometimes we don't take in how good an environment we actually have to live in, because from 10 minutes you can see the hustle and bustle of the city centre down there.
So whereabouts is the city centre and the Titanic?
So literally,
museum?
see straight ahead, you can see the 2 cranes of Harland and Wolff.
Yep.
And just to the left would be like the city centre. You can see all the higher
buildings. Yeah.
So, like within 10 minutes you can be out in the countryside, or you
yeah, because Glenn's ground is round by those cranes, isn't it? Yeah.
So you can just see the green bit there.
Oh yeah, that's the oval there. Yeah, I see it. Yep, that's the big stand there, isn't it? That green.
Yeah. So here at the Oval, just a nice place to sort of round it off for George Best, because it's the ground in Belfast where George Best would have come as a child. You're obviously at Windsor Park yesterday, where he would have played his international games, but came here as a child to watch and support the Glens, and then played the friendly, like I talked about earlier, in the 80s, the Mark Glentoran centenary. So nice place to sort of round your trip off with another Irish League ground, and sort of show the football history that we've got here in Belfast and Northern Ireland, that there's a lot of, and there's plenty more stories to tell, I'm sure, about George Best that other people be able to tell you about in the comments, I'm sure, but there's plenty of stories that we have to tell about football in Northern Ireland, and hopefully you'll get to enjoy them someday soon.
Hopefully more to come. There's a lot of good young players in Northern Ireland right now who are coming through, and especially a couple obviously at some bigger clubs in the UK. At Rangers you've got McCausland and Conor Bradley at Liverpool as well. Do you think they still look at George Best, even these young players today, as an example?
Yeah, possibly. In generations gone by, it just shows you that people from Northern Ireland, people from Belfast, and people are probably looking at the likes of Conor Bradley now, and a guy that's from a small town in Northern Ireland, and he's going on to start and be one of Liverpool's better players this season. So it just shows you, if you're from a small town or you're from anywhere, you know, don't let it hold you back, because you can achieve if you've got that talent and ability there. So yeah, hopefully it'd be great someday to find another George Best here, but easier said than done. We've been waiting on that for a while, but who knows, there's maybe one out there.
McCausland and Bradley, we're looking at you lads. And here it is, one of 2 international airports in Europe. I suppose Madeira isn't like really mainland Europe. I suppose this isn't either, really, is it? It's not connected to mainland Europe, but yeah, 2 European airports named after footballers, both Man United players, or former Man United players, obviously. The George Best Belfast City Airport. And yeah, there's so many football stories to be told in this city. Every time I come back, and this country as well, every time I come back there's always something that piques my interest, and this time I was back for the League Cup final, and I thought I've got another day here today. And obviously David, what a guy, works at Niffle, so do make sure you go and support all of the Niffle content that he puts out on all of their socials, across Instagram, Twitter, YouTube and everything. He's putting out some amazing stuff, seriously, so do go and support them and all that they're putting out over there, and David and stuff. But like I say, like, there's always so many little stories to be told, and it's just like every time I come it's something else that piques my interest. There's a few more that I've got in my mind that I need to come and do. So yeah, if you're from around here, do make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any more of my Northern Irish videos. But yeah, let's get inside and see what an airport is like, which is named after one of the greatest footballers of all time. We're through security. One of the best securities I've ever seen. Look what you can fly to from here. A lot of places we've been to on the channel before. Look, you can fly to Dundee. Didn't know Dundee even had an airport. Southampton, Valencia, Inverness.